Obviously, Warlord Games has put out 2 stat lines, one for the large merchant ship, one for the small merchant ship. And you know, the reality is merchant ships were a much larger configuration, a variety of configurations. So let's talk about that in this video. Alright, so welcome to today's Hedgehog Naval Academy episode. We're dealing with house rules regarding merchant ships. But today we're going to talk about types of merchant ships. You know, in reality, in the day, there was a very, very wide range of merchant ships plying the seas. And Warlord has gone to kind of generalize into 2 different versions. You can see the stat lines. Characteristics they share are they're kind of equate to like roughly a 6th rate and a 4th rate size, somewhere in that region. One's large, one's medium. Both have 3 knot speed. Both have a yellow turn angle. The reality of merchant ships, though, is much different. Now, they're not wrong in these 2, but I think there should be more options. So, house rule, different merchant ship types. So today we're going to go through some other options you can do for merchants. Let's start with just using the basic merchant ships. If you use the original stat lines, entirely fine. But what's interesting, if you think about the way merchant ships were actually equipped and used during the time, they didn't really want to have a lot of weight committed to cannon, you know. And a light cannon is very heavy, even heavier than you'd expect. But carronades, on the other hand, were much lighter, considering the size of bore they had. So a lot of the ships, merchant ships, were actually equipped with carronades, not equipped with regular long guns. So what you can do, essentially, is replace the existing ship's gunnery with an equivalent number of carronades. So, for example, the light merchant ship can have a broadside of 2 carronades, whereas the large can have 4 carronades. Again, though, merchant ships you'd encounter a wide variety of armaments as far as amount of guns. The more expensive, larger ones would obviously carry more guns, hence the 4 carronades. But you know, sometimes it's kind of expensive, not just to equip, but to crew. So maybe even just 2 carronades, maybe even 1 per side, whether it's large or small. You can go either way. So when you're dealing with creating some of your own scenarios, you can actually go ahead and create different types of merchant ships. Now, if you want to take the merchant ships the way they are listed, you can essentially adjust the gunnery using this very simple formula. For every light cannon you drop, you reduce the cost by 40 points. For every heavy cannon you drop, you reduce the cost by 60 points. And if you add in carronade instead, you add 50 points per carronade to a broadside. So that allows you to kind of tweak the numbers to kind of come up with equivalent point values for your ships, or even cheaper point values for some of these ships. Now, if you want to expand it further, let's talk about the other merchant ships. Smuggler's Run kind of opens that door in the following sense. It wrestles with the reality that ships of all types were used in the merchant trade, smuggling and otherwise. So, for example, your schooners were heavily relied upon in coastal trade. That is, they're very fast and were able to handle the coastal waters just fine. Up and down the U.S. seaboard throughout Europe, even the Mediterranean, those were heavily used. So you could actually use the stat lines for a schooner to represent a similarly equipped merchant ship. So now they're a little faster, a little more maneuverable, and that could offer an interesting challenge to scenarios where you want to play pirates or privateers versus merchants. You can do the same thing as far as their loadout. So, for example, you can take the light cannon off of the schooner and put a carronade on for an extra 10 points, basically, because that'd be the net. You could go with a brig. Take the 2 heavy cannon off, put 2 carronade on. You essentially lower the point value by 20. Or you could replace the 2 heavy with 2 light, or a light and a carronade. You could do the math that way too. Again, increasing the variety of opponents, merchant opponents that your pirate fleet will face, or your privateer will try to capture. This opens up a lot of opportunities for very flavorful scenarios, and especially when you have situations where you have lightly gunned but maneuverable merchant ships played by one player trying to evade those pirates. So, as a general rule, it's very simple to use your imagination, and you can substitute any of the existing ship types that are unrated and count them as merchant ships. Why not? Okay. In fact, there's one other thing you might want to think about, and that is you could use the 6th rate as an effective representation of some of the nicer, more modern, for the time, merchant ships. Think about this. The Bonhomme Richard was actually a merchant ship that the French had, and they refitted it to become essentially a 6th rate. And it was fast enough to, hunt down British ships, British shipping, and not just merchant ships, but unrated. So, how can a ship with a 3 knots and a yellow turn arc be that maneuverable and that effective at plundering, as a privateer, plundering British merchants of all sizes? The reality is, well, a lot of these ships were more capable than the 2 stat lines we have. So the other way to adjust the stat line is to increase the rate of knots for a given ship, maybe to 4, maybe not 5, but definitely to 4. And often, why not make it a red turn arc? Because some of the more modern ships were more capable of sailable. Okay, so there's some other ways here you can change up the way your merchant fleet looks like, and of course you can always use that 6th rate. And in fact, using that 6th rate, you can do the same math by taking down the light cannon and heavy cannon and converting it to carronades to, again, reflect the fact that they're going to go with lighter guns on a merchant ship, lighter by weight, not weight of fire, because carronades are much lighter. And of course, a short-range ship, as far as carronades go, that's a challenge to try to defeat, because in a pirate scenario, you want to take the opponent's ship. You don't want to sink it. So carronades are very intimidating. So those are the options. Those are the ways to kind of expand the horizon, so to speak, with merchant ships. Take a look at the different ship types and the different loadouts as far as adjusting the gunnery to especially favor carronades, and you've got quite a variety of opponents that you can use, especially when you want to run a privateer or pirate versus a merchant fleet scenario. So hope this particular house rule kind of expands your gaming opportunities. Go ahead and comment below. Let's, as a community, discuss the ways you could expand and improve the merchant rules, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.